I ain't here to play around, Daniel. I know you gotta go. I'm here. Just get me mic'd up, get me rolling, and let's go. One, two, three, four. We're gonna teach these principal investigators what it's all about. Daniel, we're here to roll. We're here to shoot. We're here to not waste these doctors' time. This is a short one. It's not even gonna be a pod. This is just for the physicians out there what it means to have principal investigator oversight. And the short and sweet version, because I know I did like a semi related video to this, like how to maintain proper PI oversight and all that. This is the short, condensed version of like you can actually lose a study and a sponsor if you don't show up to your monitoring visits, if you give the impression that you're not involved. So I have personal experiences, like I've been doing this for 20 years, but I've had PIs that have demonstrated very good PI oversight, and I have some that haven't, and I have many in between. And it's usually like the clinicians who are just way too busy in their own clinic to even consider doing research. And I know it sounds like everyone, because that could be the case for everyone. But then there's the variable of the individual. And if the individual physician actually shows interest in the study, meaning they come to the site selection visits, even if it's 10 minutes, they come to the site initiation visits, even if they tell the monitor, hey, just read me my slides or what I need to know and I need to get in and out, they show up to their interim monitoring visits and they know what's going on with the study. And it's pretty obvious when you have a PI as a monitor, because I've been a monitor myself as well as a site owner. It's pretty obvious the PIs that have oversight versus those that don't. Now, when you start doing trials, it's very important that you demonstrate an interest. And so, meaning asking questions, especially when the sponsor's medical monitors maybe want to talk to you or just have a casual 10-minute phone call. You cannot be too busy to do these things. And if you are, you're probably not going to last very long as a PI. And it happens time and time again. I would say from the PIs that I have currently with me in Yuma, we've been very fortunate actually. But we have had one particular case where there was a lack of a PI oversight, and it was not until that towards the end of the study. And the sponsor, they find errors because whether your site has great PI oversight or not, your coordinators are going to make errors. Your coordinators are going to, they're human. They're going to forget to log certain logs in the investigator site file. There's going to be action items that kind of go unanswered. Like a lot of the PI oversight is kind of shielded. A lot of the lack of the PI oversight is shielded by the coordinators who bear the brunt of the work. Like probably 95% of the work is on the coordinators. And then if you have a good sub-I, they can kind of shield you from the rest. So a lot of PIs can hide. But the problem is that's essentially a house of cards because the coordinators are human, sub-I are human, sub-I are not the PI. So when they make a mistake, like a human error, or they maybe don't have the proper training to do certain aspects of the protocol, it's going to fall back on the PI. And that's when the sponsor starts to say, hey, I need to discuss with the PI. I need a conversation with the PI. When the PI is too busy to have these conversations and these mistakes continue to happen, it becomes an issue because that shows PI oversight and that demonstrates a lot of the workflow that's happening at the site that the PI should actually be aware of. So it's enthusiasm and it's also the lack of PI oversight. Now, how to maintain proper PI oversight in the best possible way? There's really three pillars that I would really focus on. So number one is patient safety. And this is not that different from the Hippocratic Oath. Like just you do no harm, you make sure the patients are being looked out after, you're making sure that their HIPAA is being respected, that they have fully informed consent, that you're looking at the labs. If you notice any AEs or SAEs, that you're documenting it properly on your end. And that could just mean a quick CS, NCS, and maybe even like a retest of this. I have one PI who does do a good job of this. When he sees a lab value he doesn't like, he puts retest, and then the coordinators have to do a unscheduled visit and retest. And then the PI is actually curious. Okay, well, what is this? Okay, well, it looks like maybe the patient needs to be withdrawn, or maybe the dose needs to be adjusted if the protocol allows for that. But just doing things like that is helpful. Now, writing a progress note here and there, it's helpful. But if you're doing the physicals, for example, I think it's easier for internal medicine physicians to demonstrate oversight if they're doing the physical exams, because they're doing some assessments. Or in the case of psychiatry, if the psychiatrist, who would be the PI, is doing some of the rating scales, they're demonstrating oversight. So maybe they don't need a progress note because they're doing a structured clinical interview diagnostic test. Or maybe in the physical, the PI is writing a quick couple of sentences about the patient's history. That's good enough. If you combine that with the sub-I's narrative and the coordinator's notes for that day, that's perfect. No one's going to generally have a problem with that. So patient safety is number one, and that includes informed consent. But then number two is investigation of product, making sure that you are tracking and counting, that you are tracking and accountable for every single IP bottle, pill, vial, whatever form the IP comes in, that you are tracking and have a chain of custody of the IP when it arrives at the site, when it's dispensed, when it's returned, and that you have logs for these things. Now, these are coordinator activities, but you as a PI need to be making sure that these things are happening. And when they're not happening, you'll usually hear about it from the monitor, and then you need to do something about it. And what my PIs usually do is contact me, because I'm the site director, and they say, hey, Dan, make sure your coordinators figure out what they're doing with this IP, because I'm getting bugged by these monitors. And then I usually go in there and retrain the staff, including the PI, on how to do it properly, and go from there. Another thing is regulatory. That's the third leg. So that's when new staff come on. Are they put on the delegation of authorities log? Are they taken off of the delegation of authorities log when they are done with the study or they leave the site? Are they trained? Are they getting all amendments, protocol amendments, signed and trained? Are you as the PI signing all new protocol amendments? These are things you need to pay attention to. Now, the shortcut around this is to talk to your monitors. And so what I notice is from a lot of the PIs that do not demonstrate good PI oversight, they don't really know what's going on, and they don't meet with their monitors during the monitoring visits, which, by the way, only take 10 minutes. So even if they don't know what's going on, as good as a coordinator, because no PI will, but even if they don't know what's going on compared to like the average PI, they can still demonstrate good PI oversight if they meet with their monitor and address the monitor's concerns. Now, occasionally you'll get a monitor that is lazy or is dropping the ball themselves, and they are also missing things. And then what usually happens is another monitor comes on, and now you have a laundry list of action items, and now no one wants to do any of that work because it's overwhelming, and now everyone sticks their head in the sand and says, oh no, we're not going to do research because it's too much work. So you might get lucky in that sense, to where it therefore pays to have knowledge of what's going on. But the shortcut around that is meet with your monitor when they come in, even if it's 5 minutes. If you happen to miss a monitoring visit, make sure you call your monitor. Even the next day, it's okay. Have their cell phone number, or whenever you can. And then read their monitoring follow-up letter. On the monitoring follow-up letter, it'll have all the action items at the end of that monitoring visit of what they found. So then you make sure that your coordinator or your lead or your QA or your site director or the site owner, whomever you put in charge, is taking care of these things. And you could personally follow up and say, hey, make sure that stuff's done. Now, that's my job at the site as the site owner, site director. And then I'm grooming someone else to be a site director to replace me from that so I could focus on growing the business. But I'm not a PI. If I was a PI, I'd be doing these things. So that's in a nutshell how to maintain good PI oversight. Again, number one is safety to the patient. That's number one priority, is keeping your patients safe, not randomizing people you shouldn't be randomizing, and paying attention to the inclusion-exclusion criteria. That's number one. You don't want to cause harm to patients, and you don't want to cause issues with data integrity by not having the proper patients enroll. Number two, making sure you're documenting adverse events and serious adverse events. Even if it's your coordinators doing it, just make sure you are aware of the adverse events or serious adverse events that are going on, especially when it comes time for adjudication on these serious adverse events. They will need the PI to provide some insights into that. So that's when the PI might need to sit down with the coordinator and say, okay, for this SAE, refresh my memory on what happened. Let's document it properly. Where are the records from the hospital? All the stuff that you need during adjudication for an SAE. We've been through that a few times as well with our PIs. Regulatory is very important, making sure the staff is trained and delegated and that you're following up on action items. And then the IP accountability. Those are the things you need. So if the staff is not following up on action items, and the PI is never around, the monitor has no one to complain to. The monitor is getting bombarded from their senior leadership. The monitor is then saying, well, I tried to talk to the PI, they're never available, and then the site has all these action items, they never get done. That triggers sponsor audits. If that happens and you still don't show up as a PI, then the sponsor is going to say, well, you just demonstrated your lack of PI oversight. So that's the basics. It doesn't require much time. You can still be a busy private practice physician and have a healthy and successful quality research program, but you just need to do these things I mentioned. I wanted to keep it short and sweet, and be respectful of your time because I know you're busy. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. Hey, if you guys like that kind of content, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share. Stay tuned for more videos.